All right. We're good. All right. So this is new. This is fresh. Just happened. I thought I would just shoot a quick video with no thought or preparation. A friend sent me a video this morning of two guys in a podcast talking about their past. The question was, would you go back and would you change anything in your past? I think this is such a good question for us to wrestle with, especially as guys, and especially as guys with pasts. I think of the word regret. Sometimes I think, yeah, we should have no regrets, and then sometimes I realize, in a fallen world, as a saved sinner in a fallen world, we're always going to have regrets, and until we really start to mature and deal with a lot of our stuff and find Jesus and He transformed us, we're always going to have regrets. And I have regrets. If you know my story, you know that it's full of past experiences that did a lot of damage. Infidelity and issues with addiction and stuff I even haven't had a chance to talk about, stuff related to anger and all sorts of stuff. And when I think of the question, would I want to go back in the past and change something? I mean, I don't know anyone that wouldn't want to go back into their past and some of their experiences in these moments and make a different decision or do something differently. Or, for me, it's going back into the past and probably seeking some help sooner than I would have, or talking to someone about my stuff. Definitely making choices that were different, that didn't lead to all these worse things down the road. Of course, I'd want to, because I think of the pain that I caused people, my kids, my wife, the people in my ministry, my church, with betrayal and lying and, just everything surrounding what I did caused a lot of harm, caused a lot of pain. Probably, I don't know. I don't know exactly everything it did, but I can imagine it. And I think, yeah, if I could have avoided putting people through that, yeah, I wouldn't want that. And also just how it affected me, the consequences of the choices you make and everything you go through. And because of the choices you make, those decisions, and it hurt me. It did damage to me. It affected my relationship with people, affected my relationship with God, and it had like real world consequences, loss, stuff like that. But that said, you can't help but look back on your past and see how, even though there's all this stuff where, it caused damage, you made the wrong choice, whatever it is, after that, you became a different person, or God brought good out of it. At least that happened for me. I think of the addiction and the infidelity and all the stuff there. And I think, yeah, I wish it never happened. But then I think of what happened because that led to my bottoming out in life. Really just everything's wrecked. Bottom out. Fell off the cliff. I'm in the valley. That place is where God did such an amazing work on me, on my marriage, and my relationship with Him. Everything changed after I bottomed out. I was fertile soil for God to do probably what He'd been waiting to do, since He is sovereign and He is omniscient and He knows all. I really do believe He was waiting for me to just bottom out, maybe, so that I would finally be willing and humble enough, or really humiliated enough, to receive His grace, receive His help, receive help from others. That was a big one. So, out of that, God did an amazing work. And not just that, it rippled through the family. Of course, my wife went through a lot of pain, but she grew out of that same bottom out period where she was going through her own stuff. She grew. Our marriage grew. We're in the same marriage, but we're different people now. We have a much better relationship, one built on unconditional love. I know everything about her. She knows everything about me, and we still choose to be together. That's amazing. Would we have gotten there had I not wrecked my life? I don't know. But that is my past, and that's what I experienced. And so in a way, I almost look back and I think, well, because of all this stuff happening, it led here. The outcome, where I am now, is good. Would I have experienced that had I not wrecked my life, had I not made all these choices? I don't know. It's this weird thing we have to wrestle with. But at the same time, we can't change the past. I don't ever look back on that stuff as good. An affair is never good. But that doesn't mean God can't bring good out of it. We see that all throughout Scripture, and we see it in the testimony of followers everywhere, all the time. That is what God does. This is the story of redemption. He takes something that's broken, and He heals it, and He makes it beautiful. That's what He's doing to us. Even though we're living in this broken world and we're still experiencing all the consequences, He is redeeming us and restoring us to something that we were meant to be. So there's that. So I look at it and I think, oh, well, what happened because of all that is good. And then I think of what I'm now able to do. It's weird because in the past I was in ministry. I was doing youth ministry for years and I was good at it, and I'm trying not to say that pridefully, but like I had a gift for working with teenagers. I loved working with teenagers and talking to them and getting other people to talk to them and love on them. And, it was a great experience. It was a great part of my life. But everything fell apart, and then God worked on me, and here I am now. And I actually, the way I look at myself now is, wow, now I'm really ready to do ministry, a different kind of ministry, clearly, but a ministry to men, maybe men like you who are going through your own stuff, battling your own struggles and sin and shame, addictions, whatever it is. And it's like, I know as that guy, you need someone to come alongside you and say, you're not alone. What you're experiencing and struggling with is normal. Not that it's good, but it's normal. This is a normal thing that men struggle with, and nobody talks about. But you're going through it. I went through it. Many of us have gone through it, and this is what hope looks like. This is how you trust God in this struggle. This is what you need to do to maybe heal your marriage. There's guidance there, there's wisdom there, and there's hopefully encouragement and all of that. And it's like that is ministry. This is the ministry of reconciliation that Paul is talking about in, I think it's 2 Corinthians 5, 17, 18, somewhere in there off the top of my dome, right? We all have been given a ministry of reconciliation. And now that I've gone through my wreck and been reconciled to God in a better way and being redeemed and being restored, now I can come along others in a way that I could never do before because I was walking in shame. I was self-sufficient. I was self-righteous. I was isolated. I couldn't teach anyone to do anything except model what I was doing. Now I have the ability to help people and minister to people, and that's an amazing thing. So when I think of my stuff, I think, yeah, bad. I call it bad. But what happened after? Good. Amazing. That is the gospel. I mean, that is a testimony of the gospel. And so when I start thinking about all this stuff, I try not to dwell on the past because it does bring me down. It starts to allow the shame to start creeping in, and then shame just spirals out of control, and it just accuses you and gets you to just believe all sorts of lies. There's not a lot of benefit to just dwelling on the past if you're not also connecting the dots to what came out of that, right? I could dwell on the past and the decisions I made and be like, oh, man, that sucks. But I got a better marriage. I'm a better dad. I'm a better man. I'm a better follower. And now I'm helping men who are going through the same things that I used to go through. That's amazing, isn't it? That's the story of the gospel. And it's messy, and it's not at all what any of us planned when we were younger. Like, no one planned, I'm going to be a follower of Jesus. I'm all in, and in like 8 years, I'm going to wreck my life. And then amazing things are going to happen. That's not what people envision. But that's what happens. That's what happened to me. And that kind of story happens to a lot of people. They get to the end of their rope, and at the end of the rope is God waiting. Like, hey, are you ready? Are you ready for me to come into your life and really start running the show? Because a lot of us, it takes a lot of a lot of failure and a lot of bad decisions before we're ready to turn over the reins to our life. So yeah, that's just some of my thoughts today as I saw this video and this question, would you go back and change your past? In a weird way, I almost think no, because of where I am now, because of where me and my wife are now. Do I wish I could go back and people didn't have to feel the pain that I caused? 100%. Do I wish for a different outcome? No. And I think that's a good truth to connect to. When we start kind of like, woe was me, and kind of just dwelling in that stuff, to really just get present and be like, well, where does God have me now? And this is where God has me. And it's amazing. And it came out of that. So God makes sense of all this stuff. As humans, it's hard to make sense of. But couple things that I think is worth considering is when you look on your past, instead of just dwelling on it and thinking, I'm broken, I'm failed, I'm flawed, really start thinking, what has come out of it though? I got a friend who, he has a story similar to mine. He struggled with all kinds of addiction and failed, according to him in all these different ways. And now he sees himself as maybe not qualified to lead his son or his family and help other guys. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, no, dude, you are qualified because you failed, because you went through all that. You now have the experience, you have the wisdom, you have the been there, done that, live to tell about its story that you can give to others. And that's amazing, right? It reminds me of this quote out of the Big Book. I got it here. It says, cling to the thought that in God's hands, the dark past is the greatest possession you have. Your experience and your wreckage and your baggage, when it is being redeemed by God, becomes an amazing gift for others. And that's a key point. I think instead of dwelling on the past and just, oh, woe is me, where am I now? And what am I capable of doing now that I've gone through that? And now that God has redeemed me and changed me into someone new, someone different. You are capable now because of that past. You have a ministry now because of that past. You have a story now because of that past. Now, not everyone has this big past story, but everyone has a past. Everyone has regrets. Everyone has moments where they wish they'd done something different, and yet God showed them love and grace and walked with them through that and brought them out of it, and they were made different. That is a story worth telling. That is a story worth sharing, and you should share that. That is maybe the greatest possession you have, is your testimony. And if you share that with others, it's going to become hope for them to cling to, so they can go through their stuff and so they can trust God in similar ways. So that's all I got today. I don't have a wrap-up planned, so let me know what you think. Do you have regrets? What are they, if you're willing to share them? But, what do you do with your regrets? What do you do with your past when you think about it and you're like, I wish I did things differently? Do you sit there or have you been transformed? Have you been changed? Has God used that past to do amazing things? What is it? I would love to hear it. I would love to hear that I'm not the only one out there with a past that God has used. I know there's others out there, and I think everyone else would like to hear that too. So I encourage you, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And we'll see you in the next video.